talking about here on my channel right now. It's all about Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively's.
Even Ryan Reynolds' career is starting to take a hit, and it's happening fast. Paramount has quietly removed 3 of his upcoming films from their schedule, and industry insiders are whispering that this is far from just a scheduling issue. The animated comedy, Animal Friends, originally slated for a 2025 release, has now been delayed by an entire year, and there is no indication of a reschedule. Even Deadpool 4, the movie that was expected to be a cash cow for the studio, is rumored to be quietly put on ice. And the reason behind all this turmoil isn't complicated or mysterious, it's Blake Lively. Her massive $650 million lawsuit against Justin Baldoni and the Wayfarer parties is unraveling at an alarming rate, and Hollywood is starting to pull back in ways that are unprecedented. This is no ordinary courtroom battle. What's unfolding is an industry-wide reckoning, and no one seems willing to side with someone who publicly cries harassment while simultaneously wielding immense power behind the scenes. Let's be honest, this isn't a brave whistleblower moment. It isn't someone standing up against injustice. This is a public relations stunt that has gone completely nuclear. And if you thought it couldn't get worse, the court has now released documents that Blake never wanted the public to see, documents that reveal a legal nightmare her team is scrambling to contain. The court documents paint a picture far different from the one Blake has tried to sell to the world. Her legal team is reportedly in full panic mode. On a Friday that will surely be remembered in Hollywood gossip history, the Wayfarer parties launched a devastating counterattack. They filed 2 significant legal responses, and what they revealed has shaken even the most seasoned Hollywood observers. Simply put, Blake Lively doesn't have a case. Not for harassment. Not for retaliation. Not even for a smear campaign. The legal facts are clear, and they are not in her favor. For starters, Blake was never technically an employee. She was classified as a contractor. Her taxes were filed under an LLC, and she was paid using a 1099 form, not a W-2. In practical terms, this means she does not have the legal standing to claim harassment or a toxic work environment. She is well aware of this, yet she pressed forward with the lawsuit anyway. Every accusation she made is now crumbling under scrutiny, leaving her legal team scrambling for anything that might stick. In desperation, her lawyers have attempted to introduce evidence that has no connection to the movie at the heart of the lawsuit. They dragged in an entirely unrelated director, made vague claims about past disagreements, and tried to use a single phone call as proof of a conspiracy against her. None of it is landing. The judge sees through the layers of noise and theatrics, adding insult to injury. The Wayfarer legal team brought in a seasoned expert, James F. Haggerty, who has more than 30 years of experience in crisis PR. His assessment was scathing. What Justin Baldoni did was not a smear campaign, it was standard Hollywood defense. According to Haggerty, Blake's claims resemble the actions of a desperate individual attempting to destroy her own narrative while failing to provide tangible evidence. But that's only the beginning of the bizarre twists. In one of the most unusual courtroom claims in recent Hollywood history, Blake attempted to turn a completely ordinary film industry phrase into a supposed act of harassment. According to court filings, producer Jamie Heath allegedly told Blake that she would be birthed into the role of Lily Bloom, a metaphor commonly used in Hollywood to indicate that an actor is stepping fully into a character or that a project is entering production. Normally, this is standard industry language, used countless times without incident. But Blake transformed it into an accusation of sexual objectification. Even the Wayfarer legal team had to clarify in their response that it was simply a figure of speech, not a literal comment about her body or a sexual innuendo. Yet Blake insisted it constituted harassment, creating moments of second-hand embarrassment for the courtroom and anyone following the case. The troubling part is that this isn't an isolated incident of twisting innocent language. Reports suggest that Blake has a recurring pattern of taking harmless metaphors and attempting to frame them as inappropriate. This fixation has become a legal strategy, weaponizing language in a way that critics describe as manipulative and opportunistic. The birthed into the role incident didn't even occur on set, it happened before filming, likely in California, but Blake has attempted to anchor it into her case to bring California law into a legal battle primarily taking place in New York and New Jersey. The strategy is both weak and transparently manipulative. It gets worse, Blake has also been accused of actively hiding evidence from the public. Court records reveal that she has sealed significant portions of her own lawsuit, including her declaration, statements from her personal trainer, and even her deposition testimony. For someone claiming victimhood, this behavior raises obvious questions. Typically, someone alleging harassment or retaliation would want their evidence to be seen, to bolster their credibility. Instead, Blake is pulling legal strings to ensure that neither the public nor the press can see what she is actually saying under oath. And the evidence she does submit often undermines her case, consisting of irrelevant or weak material such as conversations from unrelated projects or drama from entirely different films. Observers describe this as courtroom filler, legal clickbait intended to give the appearance of substance without actually providing it. Meanwhile, Justin Baldoni and his legal team are following the rule of law and methodically dismantling her claims. They've brought facts, expert testimony, and solid legal arguments to the table, exposing the gaps and contradictions in Blake's filings. Her reliance on sealed documents and dramatic, attention-grabbing but irrelevant claims is failing to sway the court, the jury, or even the Hollywood establishment. The implications extend beyond Blake alone. Ryan Reynolds, once a bankable and untouchable figure in Hollywood, is now collateral damage. The couple that once managed their own PR so flawlessly now watches as their carefully curated public image crumbles. Studios are stepping away. Paramount has removed 3 Ryan Reynolds projects from its slate. One was in early development, another quietly shelved, and Animal Friends delayed by an entire year.
I don't think I relate to any of my characters. I've
the
played
money-making
a
franchise
crack
may be
addict from
facing serious
Boston.
hurdles,
I've played
although
an
the official
Upper
line
East
from the
Side
studio cites scheduling
princess.
conflicts. Industry insiders, however, suggest the real issue is bad press, tied directly to Blake Lively's legal battles and the perceived manipulation involved. Ryan is not innocent here. By aligning his public persona so closely with Blake's narrative, he has inadvertently tied himself to her sinking ship. At the same time, Hollywood is making a broader decision. It is not simply choosing sides in a legal battle, it is choosing to protect its own integrity and financial interests. The message is clear: when a high-profile figure attempts to take down an entire production company with unsubstantiated claims, theatrics, and sealed evidence, people notice. Hollywood doesn't forgive easily, and silence from others in the industry isn't consent, it's restraint. Now, that restraint is gone, and studios are acting accordingly. The repercussions extend beyond Hollywood to the realm of independent journalism. Blake Lively has reportedly attempted to target independent commentators, including YouTubers who criticized her lawsuit. One prominent example is Andy Senior of Popcorn Planet, who was among the first to call out the lawsuit as a weaponized PR move built on shaky claims. Blake allegedly tried to force Andy to reveal sources, stop speaking, and abandon his commentary. In Florida, a judge recently ruled that Andy is not considered a journalist, meaning he has no legal protection for his sources and no First Amendment shield. Observers warn that if this ruling holds, it could set a dangerous precedent for independent voices across media platforms, potentially silencing YouTubers, podcasters, and writers who dare to speak critically outside the mainstream Hollywood narrative. The broader picture is a cautionary tale about the misuse of celebrity, power, and legal systems. Blake Lively's attempt to control the narrative, silence critics, and weaponize the courts has not only failed legally, it has also resulted in severe reputational damage, studio hesitancy, and collateral consequences for her husband. Meanwhile, Justin Baldoni's methodical defense, rooted in evidence, expert testimony, and strict adherence to the law, highlights the stark contrast between genuine legal strategy and performative litigation. Hollywood, the court, and the public are all seeing the same story unfold, a story of a PR stunt gone horribly wrong, of inflated claims meeting the cold reality of law, and of celebrity influence proving no match for procedural and evidential scrutiny. Now, as we continue, the fallout for Ryan Reynolds becomes even more apparent. Once celebrated as Hollywood's golden boy, Reynolds' charm, box office power, and untouchable image are suddenly under scrutiny. The films he's attached to are no longer seen as surefire hits, they are liabilities in the eyes of studios worried about association with Blake Lively's crumbling legal narrative. In addition to the 3 projects pulled by Paramount, insiders suggest that several other projects in development are being quietly shelved or delayed indefinitely. The whispers in the industry are clear: no studio wants to risk its finances and reputation by backing an actor closely aligned with a lawsuit that has now become synonymous with manipulation, secrecy, and courtroom theatrics. Reynolds' past reputation as a shrewd businessman and charismatic leading man is now entangled in Blake's legal storm. For a man whose career depended on public favor and box office appeal, this kind of negative association is perilous. The animated comedy Animal Friends, delayed by a year, becomes a symbol of the ripple effect of Blake's legal missteps. It's not just about lawsuits or courtrooms, it's about the tangible economic consequences for Hollywood productions, studios, and even the careers of those caught in the crossfire. While Blake Lively's lawsuit continues to collapse legally, the strategies she and her team have deployed are becoming increasingly desperate and, frankly, bizarre. Court filings indicate that she attempted to introduce new evidence that had not been part of her original complaint, a move so unusual that it drew immediate rebuke from the Wayfair legal team. Essentially, Blake asked the court to overlook procedural rules to accept evidence that had no formal place in the case, a tactic reminiscent of courtroom fan fiction, according to observers. The attempt was to inject drama, headlines, and recycled gossip into a formal legal proceeding, presumably to sway public opinion and create a perception of legitimacy. But the court, trained to differentiate fact from theatrics, saw straight through it. The Wayfair attorneys made it clear Blake had months to amend her complaint if she intended to bring in new claims. She chose not to follow proper procedure, instead attempting to manipulate the court into accepting a PR-driven narrative disguised as legal argument. This has left her credibility and legal standing in tatters, exposing the stark contrast between methodical defense and desperate performance. Meanwhile, the public fallout is intensifying. Hollywood insiders and entertainment journalists are noting the unprecedented removal of Blake and Ryan from influential lists, such as IMDb's Power Couples rankings. Other lesser-known couples remain, but Blake and Ryan, once emblematic of Hollywood glamour and influence, have been quietly erased. Studios, recognizing the risk associated with the couple, are quietly pulling back from projects that would place either of them in the public eye. For Reynolds, the consequences are particularly acute. By aligning his public persona and personal brand so closely with Blake's legal maneuvers, he has inadvertently become a co-participant in a scandal that has far-reaching implications. Hollywood's choice to walk away is not just a response to legal risk, it is a strategic effort to mitigate reputational damage and protect the industry's financial interests. The message is unambiguous: the era of untouchable celebrity influence cannot override procedural justice and evidence-based scrutiny. Adding a layer of complexity to the situation, Blake Lively's legal actions against independent commentators, such as YouTuber Andy Senior, reveal a disturbing trend toward silencing dissent. Andy, creator of Popcorn Planet, was among the first voices to publicly criticize Blake's lawsuit as a weaponized PR maneuver lacking solid evidence. In response, Blake attempted to compel him to disclose his sources and cease commentary. Not because he had disseminated false information, but because he exposed her claims to critical analysis. A Florida judge's ruling, declaring Andy is not a journalist and therefore not protected under SHIELD laws, sent shockwaves through the independent media community. The ruling implies that independent voices, including YouTubers, podcasters, and Substack writers, could be vulnerable to intimidation and legal pressure if they challenge powerful figures with high-profile litigation. This facet of the case elevates Blake Lively's lawsuit from a private dispute to a matter with potentially far-reaching consequences for free speech and independent media. Observers are warning that if this precedent holds, it could significantly limit who can safely hold celebrities or corporations accountable outside the mainstream media apparatus. As the courtroom drama unfolds, the contrast between Blake Lively's approach and Justin Baldoni's defense becomes increasingly stark. Baldoni has methodically presented verifiable evidence, expert testimony, and detailed legal arguments, all grounded in facts and procedural integrity. Where Blake attempted to manipulate metaphorical language, seal evidence from public scrutiny, and leverage PR tactics inside a courtroom, Baldoni relied on conventional legal strategy and thorough preparation. This has not gone unnoticed. Observers point out that the court, the public, and industry insiders are all now seeing the same pattern: a meticulously prepared defense exposing a claim built largely on performative gestures and questionable interpretations. The implications are profound, not just for the immediate lawsuit, but for how the industry interprets and responds to celebrity litigation. Baldoni's approach demonstrates that fame, wealth, and influence do not shield one from legal accountability or public scrutiny when claims are unsubstantiated. Turning back to the impact on Hollywood, the fallout extends beyond individual careers. The studio's cautious retreat is a defensive maneuver to avoid financial risk, reputational damage, and association with a case increasingly perceived as manipulative. Films once assured of production are delayed, shelved, or quietly cancelled. Investors, producers, and marketers are reconsidering contracts and endorsements tied to Reynolds or Blake. The broader lesson for the entertainment industry is clear: even the most carefully managed celebrity image cannot immunize one from legal scrutiny or public opinion when evidence is weak, claims are inconsistent, and tactics appear opportunistic. The domino effect is visible. A single lawsuit, if mishandled, can threaten box office revenue, studio schedules, investor confidence, and the long-term marketability of high-profile talent. Further complicating matters, the narrative surrounding Blake's lawsuit has attracted intense public attention. Social media platforms, entertainment news outlets, and independent commentators have dissected every detail, from her claims about being birthed into a role to her attempts to seal deposition testimony. The story has become a cautionary tale of celebrity overreach, manipulation of language, and attempts to control narratives through legal channels rather than evidence. Public sentiment has shifted. Where once Lively and Reynolds enjoyed widespread admiration, the perception now leans toward skepticism, if not outright criticism. The intersection of celebrity culture, legal strategy, and media manipulation is being closely scrutinized, offering lessons for both industry insiders and the wider public about the consequences of conflating personal brand management with legal proceedings. In the final analysis, Blake Lively's lawsuit against Justin Baldoni and the Wayfarer parties illustrates several critical themes. It exposes the limits of celebrity influence in legal contexts, highlights the ethical and procedural risks of using metaphorical language as evidence, and demonstrates the vulnerabilities independent commentators face when challenging high-profile figures. Ryan Reynolds' involvement underscores the risks of associating one's career with a partner's legal battles, revealing how reputational collateral damage can extend to those tangentially involved. Meanwhile, Justin Baldoni's steadfast defense illustrates the enduring power of methodical, evidence-based legal strategy over theatrics and PR-driven claims. The case also raises broader societal questions about free speech, the role of independent media, and the responsibilities of celebrities and studios alike in navigating the complex intersection of fame, litigation, and public perception.